this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Brancatelli,
Here.
Cleveland, Griffin,
Here.
Hairston, Bashir Jones, Slife, McCormick.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, please note we have a quorum. Development and Sustainability Committee hearing is being held during the COVID-19 emergency declaration in accordance with Ohio's open meeting laws as amended by sub HB 197. This meeting is being held using the Zoom platform and is being live streamed on YouTube and on Cleveland's Channel 20. It could also be seen on Cleveland City Council website and from Council's Facebook page. In accordance with Ohio open meetings regulations as amended by sub H 197, notice of this committee hearing was publicly posted. This committee hearing will be conducted, as all committee hearings, in accordance with the council rules and Robert Rules of Order. The chair will facilitate the meeting and call on persons to speak. If you wish to speak, please use the raise your hand option on Zoom, and please limit your comments to the matters before today's committee. As is usual practice, any actions to be voted on during this committee will be done by voice vote, called and recorded by the committee clerk. We have a handful of pieces of legislation today. Welcome, everybody. The first piece of legislation we have is ordinance number 498, 2020 by Councilmember Kelly, confirming the authority of Cleveland Botanical Garden to charge admission fees and parking fees to erect improvements on property leased and subleased to Cleveland Botanical Garden, and authorizing the Director of Public Works to enter into a fourth supplemental indenture of the lease agreement. Remarks by Public Works. Director? Unmute, please, Director Cox.
That's the best way to have me muted. So yes, sir. As you read, this will be the fourth agreement with Botanical Gardens, whose operation sits on a piece of property owned by the city of Cleveland, and we have to go through and do our lease agreements with them. We'll work with law and to make sure this agreement is done when it passes through the committees. So it is just what we normally do on a lease agreement. It was introduced by Council President Kelly. So we'll work with law to get it done, sir.
And this already has, they already have a surface lot. This is for their garage.
They have a lot. They have a lot there. So I'm not sure if they want to build a garage. I thought they had a garage there too.
They have a garage as well. So
garage, yeah, they have a garage. Anything, but there's nothing that they're planning on right now that we know of building.
Okay.
But it gives them the right to work with us to build something on that property if necessary.
And whose ward is this in?
I would think it's in Ward 9.
And have they been briefed as well?
I'm not sure. Again, the council president introduced this piece, and I'm not sure if Ward 9 was.
Councilman Griffin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I sit on the Holden Parks Trust Board, and I was the one that presented in front of City Planning Commission regarding this. And Councilman Conwell at that time was briefed.
Okay.
It was okay with the moving forward with the legislation.
Great. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, he indicated as much as me as well.
Okay. Thank you, Council President. Any further questions on 498, 2020? No further questions. 498, 2020 stands approved as read. Thank you, Director. The next piece of legislation we have is 499, 2020 by Councilmember Cleveland, Johnson, Brancatelli, and Kelly by department request to amend the title on Section 18 of Ordinance 588-17 passed June 5th, 2017, related to giving consent to the Director of Transportation of the State of Ohio to remove and replace the existing East 75th Street Bridge, to supplement the ordinance by adding new sections 7A, B, C, D, and 17A to add the authority to apply and accept additional funding and to cause payment to the state of the city's share of the improvement. Director?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Yeah, this project involves removing and replacing existing bridge over Norfolk Southern Railroad tracks and Greater Cleveland RTA tracks built in 1931. This is an ODOT administered project. The superstructure and substructure are in critical condition on this bridge. The general appraisal rating prepared annually on behalf of the city by Cuyahoga County Engineer's Office it shows that it is in poor condition. The estimated cost of this project is about $7.1 million. And the local share of, or the city of Cleveland share, if you will, is $1.5 million. The design is currently underway and will be complete in March of next year. We should be bidding and awarding a contract by the end of July of next year, and then construction will be complete in August of 2023 for this project. And this is in Councilwoman Cleveland's ward.
Councilwoman Cleveland?
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I support this addition to the project. Certainly, work has already been going on, and the bridge is out. It's right next to Mount Sinai Church, just before Mount Sinai Church. The bridge won't be completed until 2023.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm not sure if the church had been notified of that, and I will touch base, or someone, actually, Director, someone should, if you haven't done so, make sure you brief Pastor Matthews at Mount Sinai on the time schedule for that. I know the bridge is in poor condition, has been for a long time, and I originally supported the project, and I understand, I support the receiving the additional issue 1 money.
Okay, yeah, we'll do, Councilwoman. We'll meet with the pastor, and ODOT will be involved with coordinating some of those meetings as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments on 499-2020? Seeing no hands, or Councilman Jones?
Yeah,
Mr.
Chair,
Jones?
I have some questions for the directors, but it's not in regard to this. I just want to make sure that before we close, I can ask them some questions.
All right, I will put John.
Thank you.
No further questions. 499-2020 stands approved as read. Thank you, Director. Ordinance number 500-2020 by Council Members Griffin, Johnson, Brancatelli, and Kelly by department request, authorizing the mayor to apply to the District 1 Public Works Integrating Committee for state funding for the rehabilitation of a portion of Buckeye Road, and to accept such funding, to apply for and accept gifts and grants from various entities for the improvement, authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to enter into the contracts and agreements to design and construct the improvement and other agreements, and authorizing the Commissioner and purchase to acquire, accept, and record the right-of-way purposes, real property and easements necessary to make the improvements. Director?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Yeah, Buckeye Road from Shaker Boulevard to South Boulevard will be rehabilitated. It's approximately 1.4 miles in length. The improvements include recycled pavement, rehabilitation, complete and green streets, and multimodal improvements include new sidewalks, curbs, ADA ramps, landings, new driveway aprons, new storm sewer drainage infrastructure, new water lines, traffic signals, and streetscaping. The city has this will be a city-administered construction project. The Buckeye Transportation for Littleville's Community TLCI study will be completed in the calendar year 2020. These TLCI and complete and green street improvements recommendations will be implemented as part of this project as well. That may include striped bike lanes, shared striped lanes, or enhanced crosswalk and enhanced transit waiting environments. So as you know, we include complete and green streets and multimodal elements in every project. The cost estimate for this project is $5.8 million, and the city share is about $2.1 million, and about $3.6 million are coming from Ohio Public Works Commission issue 1 funds. The advertising and award is currently in process. We look forward to having that. The bids completed by the end of October of 2021, and construction will begin in February 2022 and be complete in September 2022. This is in Council Members Johnson and Griffin's wards.
Thank you. Councilman Griffin?
I'm in support of this project. I do want to make sure that we work closely together around making sure the businesses have access. There's not a lot of parking there. I know that Councilman Brancatelli and a couple of others have, given me a lot of ideas about how we can make sure that we have good share roads and multimodal transportation on that strip. But I do want to make sure that we really do make sure the business owners are accommodated through this process too.
Yeah, we share
Thank
your
you.
concerns, Councilman. We'll make sure that those get into the project.
Any further questions on 500-2020? No further questions. 500-2020 stands approved as read. Thank you, Director. Next is 501-2020 by Council Members Bishop, Cleveland, Griffin, Johnson, Brancatelli, Kelly by department request, giving consent to the City of Cleveland and directed to the Director of Transportation, State of Ohio, to improve Union Avenue from Broadway Avenue to Kinsman Road, to apply for and accept any gifts or grants from any public or private entity authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to enter into any relative agreements and causing payment of the city's share of the state for the cost of the improvement. Director?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the city has arranged for the preparation of construction plans and specification, including engineering reports within this 3.2-mile project limits. ODOT will arrange for the project sale award to the lowest responsible bidder and provide all construction administration for the improvements. The complete and Green Street multimodal improvements for this section of road includes recycled asphalt milling, pavement base repair, asphalt resurfacing, installation of ADA compliant ramps, minor curb replacements, not all curb replacement, walk and drive replacements, and new pavement markings and signage. A safety grant application was filed with ODOT in March of 2019, and notice of award for this grant is pending, which may include, if the grant is successful, may include some striped bike lanes and or some shared lane striping. The cost estimate for this project is about $6.4 million, 5.1 million from federal funds, 1.3 million roughly from city road and bridge bonds. The bidding and award of this project will be complete in March of 2021, and construction should be complete in October of 2021. This is in Councilman Bishop, Johnson, Councilwoman Cleveland, Councilman Griffith, and Brancatelli's wards. And that's the summary of the project.
Thank you, Director. And also to reiterate a point that Councilman Griffin raised in the previous legislation as well, relative to the bike lanes and share-aisles and access, that we just are taking consideration of the businesses along this thoroughfare. I know we had a wonderful public meeting on this and have resolved a number of opportunities for sharing both business access as well as bike lanes. Councilman Griffin?
No, same comments as before, basically what you just said, and we want to stay close with this design process.
Great, thank you. Councilwoman Cleveland?
I only have a very small part of the project, so I support my colleagues and the community's interests.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments on 501-2020? No further questions or comments. 501-2020 stands approved as read. 502-2020 by Council Members McCormick, Johnson, Brancatelli, and Kelly by department request, giving consent to the City of Cleveland, to the Director of Transportation, State of Ohio, for resurfacing a portion of West 14th Street to apply for and accept any gifts, grants for any public or private entity authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to enter into for any relative agreements and causing payment of the authorizing for the city's share of the state for the cost of the improvement. Director?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the city has arranged for the preparation of construction plans and specification, including engineering reports. ODOT will arrange for the project sale award to the lowest responsible bidder and provide construction supervision and administration of all of these improvements. The complete and Green Streets and multimodal improvements for this roadway includes recycled asphalt milling, pavement base repair, asphalt resurfacing, and installation of ADA compliant ramps. It's approximately 0.6 miles in length. The existing pavement markings and signage, which currently include striped bike lanes, will be retained and enhanced. This project is about $1.8 million. There's federal funds of about $1.4 million, and the city's share for this project is about $362,000. We plan on awarding a contract in March of 2021 and have construction complete in September of 2021. This is in Councilmember McCormick's and Brancatelli's ward.
Thank you. Councilman McCormick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support this legislation. The director answered my questions in his introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions on 502-2020? No further questions. 502-2020 stands approved. Next up is resolution number 503-2020 by council members McCormick, Johnson, and Brancatelli by department requests, declaring the intent to vacate a portion of Japan Court Southwest, remarks by Director of Capital Projects.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this portion of Japan Court is a dead-end alley. The land owns the property that surrounds this portion of the alley on all three sides. Their plan is to remove the back half of the house on a abutting parcel and convert it to open space. Included the portion of the alley as being proposed to vacate. The courtyard will be renovated for green space for the residents of the Tinnerman Lofts and folks that go to the restaurant cafe which will occupy the former VFW hall on the abutting parcel. We do have consent from Councilman McCormick for the vacation.
Councilman McCormick?
Fully support, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions on Japan Court resolution to vacate? No further questions. 503-2020 stands approved as read. Let's sign it up. Resolution number 504-2020 by council members McCormick, Johnson, and Brancatelli by department request, declaring the intent to vacate a portion of Lorraine Court. Director?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the purpose of this request is to vacate a small remaining piece of Lorraine Court between West 48th Street, now vacated, and the rest of the vacated Lorraine Court as requested by the Urban Community School on 4701 Lorraine Avenue. We do have consent from Councilman McCormick for this vacation.
Councilman McCormick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a piece of the Urban Community School Master Planning, so I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions on 504-2020? 504-2020 stands approved as read. Thank you very much. Ordinance number 543-2020 by council members Johnson, Brancatelli, and Kelly by department request, determining the method of making the public improvements of constructing, rehabilitating, renovating, replacing, or otherwise improving recreation facilities, ancillary recreation buildings, and other similar structures on city-owned and city-leased park property, including site improvements and appurtenances, authorizing the Director of Public Works or Capital Projects as appropriate to enter into one or more public improvement contracts for making of the improvement, enter into one or more professional services and other contracts needed to implement the improvement, to apply for and accept grants and gifts, and authorizing the Director of Employment of the necessary labor for the Departments of Public Works and the Office of Capital Projects. Director?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is what we refer to as the sister legislation to the bond sale that the council, along with Chief Dumas, passed a few months ago. So these bonds have already been sold. Now we passed the sister legislation. This gives us authorization to begin the projects. So this particular bond sale allocated $21,981,261.61 for the following projects that are listed on your legislative summary. But this year, we will be beginning work on Ambler Holton Playground. We'll continue our work on Frederick Douglass Rec Center, which is also referred to as the Ward 1 Rec Center. Kavasik Rec Center. Camp Forbes will be doing a pond restoration along with a grant we're getting. So the amount shown there is the city share for the grant to go with the grant improvements to restore the pond at that location. Hamilton Rec Center, complete renovation. citywide courts and ball fields, which is a program we've been doing for years now, and all of the courts and ball fields get assessed, and they're done in a worst first manner based on scoring. Citywide playground surfaces and signages, very similar. These are all the playground safety surfaces and signages in the city, and they're scored and done in a worst first manner. Citywide mechanical, electrical, and plumbing improvements to all rec centers. Again, these are all assessed. All 22 rec centers have been assessed, and they are prioritized in a worst first condition to get the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing improvements in these rec centers back into operable condition. And then citywide roofs, again, very similar. It's all of the roofs on all the rec centers have been assessed. They're evaluated, and they're done in a worst first manner. This not only includes the roof, but includes the whole building envelope. So it's all the masonry and roofing and windows and doors for the rec centers. That's our citywide, we call it citywide roofs program. League Park master plans, additional improvements to League Park. Towpath Trail capital repairs. These are repairs required by our agreement with our partners that the city do the capital repairs. Canal Basin Park land acquisition and Canal Basin Park development. These are projects that will acquire the required property at the Canal Basin Park location and begin the design of those parks improvements with our partners on that project. Mercedes Cotner Park, that's a full park renovation. Indoor pool lifts. Indoor pool lifts are required for ADA compliance, and these are done on a worst first highest use facility, and then we work through the list on those. Citywide pools, again, we assessed all the city pools in the city of Cleveland. We've rated them worst first, and we will start to fix all of these pools. Most of it's mechanical, electrical, plumbing type fixes in a worst first priority list, and that project is beginning now. And then World One Memorial. This is our local share. The VA has given us a grant to build a World War Memorial adjacent to their center. And so that will allow us to actually start the work at that facility. And that's our list of projects for this year, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director. I know that both looking at the road projects as well as these capital improvement projects, there's been no COVID relief for you and your office and your team. They've been working hard on getting this together. And there was a significant number of requests that were made through when these were presented and approved at Municipal Services Committee. Did you get that request, Mr. Director, from John James?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Ken Johnson's committee
Yes.
issued us a list of questions. We just received them this morning.
Okay.
The staff is working on those. They're due back to the council, I believe, on the 9th.
Yes.
So the staff is working on responses to those now.
Great. Thank you. Do we have questions on 543-2020 other than with the additional questions that were raised at MPS? Councilman Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to understand about past projects. Oman Park on Mansfield Boulevard. I know that was scheduled to be started this year. We've been told that for the last couple of years, and I didn't hear that on the list. So I was trying to understand what about some of those projects which have been on the capital list for about the last couple of years and still haven't seen the improvements. Are you doing those projects, or how is that going to work?
Through the chair to Councilman Griffith. Yeah, as you know, we have a park rating system, so where all the parks are rated and scored. I'm not exactly sure right now. I don't have that information in front of me where Oman Park falls in that. We will send you that information immediately following the meeting, and explain to you when that park will receive improvements.
All right, because what I'm trying to get to, Mr. Chairman, is have something changed, because a couple of years ago, and I know that things change. I know we have to look at, trends and everything else as far as worst first. But for the last 2 or 3 years, just like Regent Park, which I thank you guys for putting together, Oman Park was on that same list to get done, and it's a very small park. I'm just trying to see, did it get bumped for some reason? Did you bump some parks that were scheduled to get improved and go in a different direction? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay, yeah, we'll get that answer for you today, Councilman.
All right, and the other thing that I wanted to ask is, I have, we have RIT money that we always have that's supposed to go towards park. My philosophy is that I'm not going to throw the RIT money that we have to stand alone. I would like it to be coupled with some of the improvements you're making in the parks. For example, if you were told me you're doing with Fairfax or you're doing Arthur Woods Park, then I would probably use RIT money in order to enhance whatever you're going to do. So I don't know what parks you have in Ward 6 that you're looking at doing, because I didn't hear any on the list, but I would like to know which parks are being teed up, because I would like to couple it with the RIT dollars to do some other improvements.
Yeah, through the chair to Councilman Griffith, we have that information. We'll forward that to you as well. So for each council member, we do have a list of capital projects that are currently going in their ward, and a list of future projects that'll be going in their wards.
Okay. Last question, Mr. Chairman, is, we were talking about roofs, we're talking about masonry, we're talking about other building maintenance, but the locker rooms and other things at Fairfax Recreation Center are in deplorable condition. How are you looking at those kind of things? Some of those facilities are in such bad condition that it bewilders me how some of these seniors and others actually utilize it. How do you rank those where we know that I would tend to think that it may be even some other hazards there besides just building hazards with some of these, the way that some of these locker rooms and showers and other facilities are kept? How are you ranking those?
Through the chair to Councilman Griffith. So as you know, the mayor's vision and the council's intention is to renovate all of our 22 rec facilities. So we've set up strategic portfolios in order to do this. We have a rec center portfolio. And so what you see is a multi-pronged approach to renovate all these rec centers. And as I explained, we do that by two methods. We do a worst first assessment of the mechanical, electrical for all the buildings, and then we start to work on that program. Then we do a worst first assessment for the roof and exterior of all the buildings and work on that program. And then we score, we have a scoring matrix that we use to score all the rec centers for the interior renovations, if you will. That's what you're speaking about, interior renovations. And so those are all scored, and then those are all systematically renovated as we go down the list for major renovations of those. And as you see on the list here, for example, like Hamilton Rec Center, that one will be a complete renovation of the interior of the building. And so as we get to Fairfax and all the rest of these buildings, they'll be, completely renovated. That's our intent for a period of time.
Chairman, the only thing that, and this might have missed me, so I apologize if it did municipal services or anybody have a presentation on this report? Because I know a lot of us were anticipating it for a long time, and I'm not sure if we had a public hearing or anything else on this. This is
yeah, there was a presentation earlier in the year, Director, I'm blanking on who presented it.
To the Councilman, that I believe was presented by myself, Chief Brown, Director Cox, so forth. We have all that information. We sent it to council. It shows all of our scoring and all the data that we have.
Yeah, I have that document. I just didn't know if we had a presentation on it. All right, Mr. Chair, the only thing that I would say is that a lot of these centers, some are used more than others. I won't take anything away from one center or another, but I will tell you that Fairfax is heavily used, especially by the senior population and the young population. So hopefully you're looking at those factors as well as the amount of attendance, the amount of wear and tear, because it doesn't do us well to try to renovate a center that's being sparsely used in favor of a center that, is quite frankly being utilized a lot. So, but I did see that report. I just didn't know if we did a presentation. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman. And I would recommend we probably have we get an update of that presentation as these projects kick in and get an update in the fall. And if we could put that on Joe Titron's list of presentations that we can do later in the year to get current and updated on the conditions of these facilities.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, to the councilman's point about capacity, the usage, it is part of what we do, Councilman Griffin. We look at the usage of every center and we rate that along with other things that Director Spence talked about. So we do look at usage and priority package.
Thank you. Any further questions on 543-2020? No further questions. 543-2020 is approved. We talked, we'll have that while we're waiting for our additional information. 544-2020 by council members Johnson, Brancatelli, and Kelly by department request. Determine a method of making the public improvement of constructing, rehabilitating, renovating, replacing, or otherwise improving public facilities, buildings, and other similar structures, including site improvements and appurtenances, and authorizing the director of public works or capital projects as appropriate to enter into one or more public improvement contracts for the making of the improvement, enter into one or more professional services and other contracts needed to implement the improvement, to apply for and accept grants and gifts, and authorize the director of employment of the necessary labor for the Department of Public Works and Office of Capital Projects. Director?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, similar to the last piece. This is the sister ordinance that allows us to begin the work on the projects from the bonds that were sold by the council and the administration earlier in the year. The total estimated cost for these improvements by bond sales is $9,061,416. The projects that will be funded this year through the bond sale are professional services as shown there. That's for our architectural and AE services that are on call. So we usually have 3 to 5 firms on call that will help us do task orders for some design work on these projects. 205 St. Clair Phase 2, as you recall, we did 205 St. Clair Phase 1 that addressed some of the structural deterioration of the building. This is the second phase of that, which will complete our rehab of the building so that we stop the structural deterioration. Room 517A office renovations, that's in City Hall. The City Hall fire alarm system is being upgraded and modernized, and that's what that project is. These are, next one is salt domes. These are at Glenville and Ridge Road. So we'll be assessing those salt domes and getting those either completely reconstructed or stabilized. Ridge Road trench drain replacement. This is for the trench drain and scales at that facility that need to be addressed. City Hall roof Phase 2, as you know, we had some leakage in City Hall last year as it leaked into the council chambers. We did a Phase 1 and repaired all of that. This is Phase 2 to address other emergency capital areas of the roof. So that project is already started and through design. West Side Market capital improvements. This is for us to continue our aggressive capital improvements and repairs to the West Side Market. A lot of some of those are underway now, and we will continue our capital renovation programs at the West Side Market. Willard Garage Phase 3, as council knows, we've done Phase 1 and 2 to stop the immediate leakage of water and the restoration of the Willard Garage. This will be the final phase for that work, and the garage should be stabilized for the foreseeable future. Music Hall Roof Phase 2. This is, as it is the second part of the Music Hall roof work. This will be the final phase for the Music Hall, and then we'll have it completely re-roofed. The bids were received recently, and once this ordinance is passed, we can enter into a contract with the lowest bidder. Public Hall roof. This is a preliminary engineering allocation for us to begin the assessment of Public Hall roof. As you know, it's a massive roof. So we're going to use this allocation to start the engineering and figure out how big of a project it is and how we would be able to do it. Complete city police mounted unit stables. This is an allocation for the construction of the new stables. Fire station number 23. This is for storm drainage. The storm drains at this fire station have collapsed. So they're being re-excavated and renovated. And then fire station number 26 replacement. This is to replace the old fire station. So this is a new ground up fire station for the fire department. And those are the projects for this year.
Thank you very much. And as was stated before, this came out of Municipal Planning Services and had a list of questions that John James had submitted. Questions on 544-2020? No additional questions. 544-2020 also stands approved as read. So Madam Clerk, 543 and 544-20 both put those in my box, and we'll be awaiting for that additional information. That will be scheduled then for that Finance Committee meeting, as noted on the memo to the director. I had a couple of additional questions. Councilman Bashir Jones.
Thank you so much, Chair. I'm the same thing with Councilman Griffin in discussing kind of what are we looking like going forward. And what I mean by that is, you know, I have a ton of projects supposed to be happening in Ward 7, and I just have no idea about the timeline. I have no idea. I appreciate Council President for assisting me and really pushing some things, but it just concerns me about how long things take, as well as just being out of the loop. I just have no idea what's going on in my ward. And when residents ask me questions, one of the worst feelings is not being able to have an answer, and at the same time not being able to reach out and get an answer. And I'm just not. There's just no clarity, Chairman, on projects. I give you an example. On Ansel and Huff, the group that just recently built $30 million project for basically primarily students to travel back and forth from Case Western Reserve and the medical center. They gave the city close to $1 million for a park, close to $1 million up front. And I have no idea where we are in regards to the park. So I'm just really concerned that, you know, especially with COVID, I just would appreciate just better communication on what's going on in my ward so that I'm able to express it to the residents, because at the moment I don't. So I'd like to make a request, Chair. I'd like to get some timelines on the parks that I have in the ward or park. Director Sprons, I have no idea where we are with that. Kerry Kane Park, I have no idea where we are with that. It's a blessing to see Kovacic being worked on, but once again, what's the timeline with that? And that's just I just need to know what's the best form of communication. You know, what's the best form of, especially during this time. And Director Cox, I'm able to reach him primarily. But I just need to know what's the best mode of communication to get the answers that I'm looking for. Yeah, that's my first question.
All right. Well, I can answer some of those through the chair to Councilman Jones. You mentioned how long does it take to do a project? In the city of Cleveland, typically a typical project, let's say we're doing a complete park renovation, is a 3-year process. Actually, it might be more than that. It's probably like 3.5 years. You have the first 6 months or so are bond sales and passing this type of legislation that takes the council usually about 6 months to do that. This year it's taken longer. We're almost in September, and these transactions haven't been done yet. Then it takes us about a year to design a park, and that's for us to do all of the design. We do most of those designs in-house with our own staff, so it does go fairly quickly. We can sometimes get that done in less than a year because of that. and takes us a year to do procurement. This is to hire, it takes about 6 months if we have to hire an outside consultants to help us with design, and about 6 months to hire a contractor. If we have, obviously we're going to have to do that to build the work. So that gives you that. And then it takes about 1 year typically on a typical job for a contractor to build the work.
So it takes 3 years, 3.5 years.
Takes about 3.5 years. Yeah. And as you know, the construction season in Cleveland is about an 8-month period. So they, a lot of times in park work when we have to do landscaping and seeding and putting in equipment that's all temperature sensitive, that has to be done at the right time of year.
Okay, so,
That's what the city of Cleveland's delivery model is.
okay. Well, with all due respect, Director, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. And it's not no fault of yours, I'm sure, but to think that it takes 3.5 years to build a park. And maybe it cuts down to 1.5 because in this situation, Director, they gave money. They gave their own money. So there was no need for the city to provide any resources at all besides, the other process that you talked about. But I mean, just for my colleagues, and maybe you all already knew this, so this is new information for me, but that there's an average to build a park 3.5 years. Like, okay, I was in college for 4 years for my bachelor's. You mean to tell me it takes 3.5 whole years to build a park? So I'm really hoping that we take a look at this process. I mean, that's okay. Mr. President, I'll talk to you about that. I mean, okay.
Councilman Jones, I certainly share your frustration on the timing of these. And I do commit that having to understand where your parks line up. And as Councilman Griffin mentioned earlier, in terms of capital projects, I know Chief Darnell Brown and Director Spons and others make their presentation at the beginning of the year on our 5-year capital plan. That's one of our guidebooks that we use as we're looking at raising additional dollars and where we prioritize our bond dollars. But I think having a presentation this fall so we can all get an update of where our facilities stand in line and where they are, how they are graded, I think would be very helpful for us as we reach out to our residents and tell folks, here's how does this one grade throughout the city. I think getting those updates in this fall will be very helpful.
Yeah, Chair, and I think also this process has to be made better. I for the life of me, I can't fully understand why something would take 3.5 years. I can't understand. I don't even accept that yeah. Okay. Another thing is, our processes. It just seems, Chair, that seems like a lot. That seems like a lot of time. And I think that one of the most important things that we have to have in our city are our parks and our recreation centers. Like those are extremely important. Lives are dependent upon it, to be quite honest with you. In certain neighborhoods, recreation centers that young people can go to, parks, these things are very, very important. And I don't know if this is based upon, I don't know what this is based upon, the time limit of things. If that's even an average, does the city of Cleveland take that long? Do other cities take? I like to see what the average is. And I guess I'll just look into it myself, but even just for my colleagues, as we just look around the country, what is the average time that it takes to build a park? Why would it take a year for a design? A whole year to design a park? That's my daughter could, that just seems like a long.
So, yeah, so I think this would be a good subject for municipal services and John James, who can to see what best practices are. Some of the things that the city staff team have done is to help fast track some of this is do design build. There are techniques that can be done that can move projects faster. So we can have John James and Municipal Services help look at how our systems compare to other municipalities.
I would like to see that. Secondly, Chair, is, and I know that they're doing the best that they can. Right now, I would say the top three issues that residents have in my ward is blasting music, is block parties, and is grass. You know, these are the three things, man, that it's been causing my phone to go off the hook. And just once again, I go back to the processes of the grass cutting. And I know that weather plays a part. I know all that type of stuff, but I'm just really interested once again in the processes. I know that some of my residents are being told that, you know, and let me say this, by the way, if I can say this openly for every department, including the police and everybody, it's important that sometime when these workers are going out and talking to residents, they're saying things like, well, your council person told us to do this. And that may not even necessarily be the truth, number one. Or number two, if I did say it, why would you tell them I said it? You know, why? The police are going to residents' houses and say, yeah, the councilman sent us. It's like, what in the world are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? That doesn't even make any sense. Another thing with this 5G, right? They're telling people this has been a big issue in the community. And the people that are putting in the 5G are saying, well, yeah, your councilman told me to put this right here. No, I didn't. I did not. Let me say it openly. I never told anybody to put 5G anywhere. I had no, I had no control over that at all. So I'm just saying, Chair, in regards to this grass cutting. So they may cut one, but it may not be in the area. So then I help fund a Ward 7 crew. So that Ward 7 crew should be, you know, I just need to understand the process. Director Cox, who am I, Chairman to the Director Cox, who am I supposed to be talking to? Who is the head? You know, I sent the email out for that head supervisor to get in contact with me. I haven't been able to reach them. They haven't reached back out to me.
Director Cox, can you respond to the councilman on that, please?
Yes, Councilman, you can call me and I'll call you right back on any issue. Right now, we don't have a commissioner. Mr. Tyler Alexander, I think you've talked to him several times.
Yes.
Right, we'll come out and see you or go to that resident's house. If that Ward 7 crew, we are back in your ward now for the second cut. We're in your ward right now for the second cut. Every day we send out a notice of where we at in your ward. So I will send that, make sure you get that directly.
But then director, from chairman to the director, but then I have areas and pockets that are right next to residents that, you know, I would have thought that Ward 7 crew that I funded would be able to hit these city-owned lots that maybe you guys haven't seen.
So, yeah, so Director, can you be sure to reach back out offline with Councilman Jones on this?
I'll call the councilman.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Councilman.
I'll call you.
Okay, thank you. So if we go from the 5G, if we can go to the OG, Councilman Griffin?
That was funny. Before you do that, that was a good one. That was tight. I just want to make sure that I get a timeline, Chairman, of the projects in my ward. If I can make that request of what is the timeline?
Thank you. Will do.
Get through the chair to Councilman Jones. So currently, as you know, Orr Park is out to bid. Those bids should be coming in at around September 9th. And Kerry Kane, which is a $750,000 complete park renovation. As you know, those bids are also coming in on September 9th. That's what they're currently showing on the schedule right now.
And when will the work begin?
Well, if we get good bids and be able to enter into a contract, and again, that does take some time to go through the contract formation process. And again, this is temperature sensitive work, outside work. It's already September. So I would think that this work will be next spring. So so your second and third quarter of next year is when most of this work will be done. Obviously, because it's outside landscaping work. So
when will it begin? If it's done next spring, when will it begin?
They'll probably begin this work. They might be able to do some of the underground work in over the winter. If there's some pipes and stuff they can put underground, sometimes they can do that in the winter. but they won't be able to start until the actual park construction until after March 15th, when construction re-begins, March 15th. Just so everyone knows, right around November 15th to March 15th, ODOT and the city of Cleveland and most contractors stop work because the weather's too cold to work. Now, we do continue to do emergency work, and we do some underground work or some work that can be done in the winter. So they'll probably start in full force once spring thaw hits in March, around March 15th.
And that's even with the Orr Park that already has given you the money. You're saying that will take, it won't happen until next year, even though they've given you the money already?
Most likely not, yeah. So it's all weather dependent. So between March and November 15th.
You know, this process is a terrible process, man. It doesn't make any sense, but I'll talk with Council President about it.
Thank you. Councilman Griffin?
I'm fine, Mr. Chair. My questions have been answered.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councilwoman Cleveland, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do have a specific miscellaneous for Director Sprons. Looking to locate and expedite, if necessary, a vacation of a property. The name is Butner Court, or Butner. It's spelled B as in boy, Uettner. It passed the Board of Revision of Assessments on July 30th. And I was told from there it went to finance, and I'm not sure, I haven't been able to locate it in finance. And so I'm coming back to you because I know it has to end up in capital projects before it gets to us. So this is a real critical piece of an affordable housing development in my ward. And we need this piece in order to close and begin construction. So I really, really need your help in locating that and doing whatever it is we can do to move it along as quickly as possible, like maybe even tomorrow.
Director Sprons, if you can research Butner Court vacate.
Yeah, I'm aware of it. Yeah, we'll see where we can find it as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Great, and if we can relocate it, then we'll talk to the council president on getting it on the calendar. Thank you. Do we have any other hands raised for today's meeting? Council President Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to take committee time on a specific issue, but since we talked about Orr Park, to Director Sprons, we talked about this the other day, and I've got my notes here. And my understanding was that that we were going to try to get to the ground this year, and we talked about shortening the 6-month process with finance to get a contract. So my understanding is the bids are due, will be in 9/2, and then it's pretty well baked to start that process. So if you have like a 30-second response, otherwise we can just take this offline. But I just since this has been brought up, I didn't want to leave that one hanging because I did speak with the councilman about Orr Park as well.
Yeah, through the chair, Council President, that's correct. Yeah, actually, I think they moved the bid date to 9/9 now to handle some addendums that they have to the contractors. But our intention is to get good bids, is to try to get it through board of control and into contract formation as soon as possible. As we spoke. And again, just so everyone understands, right around November 15th is when, most outside construction stops. And then it restarts again around March 15th after the winter. So a lot of this work at Orr Park and even Carrie Kane, or all the other work we're doing, hundreds of projects, those will continue on into the spring.
Thank you. I just want to just kind of mark this one as, one that we'd like to get in the ground this year, as we discussed, and if we can shorten any of those processes. But I just didn't want to leave that one hanging. So we can take this offline. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council President. And also for Director Sprons and Director Cox, just want to see if you have an update on the repaving of Independence Road from Bading south to the property limits. I know that was discussed at the beginning of the year for resurfacing of the asphalt section of Baden. We did finish Crete as part of our local design, our local roads, but Independence Road was scheduled for this year as well. We have an update on that?
I have an update if nobody else does.
Go ahead,
I've got
Council
a
President.
last I heard update, so things may have changed. If I may, Mr. Chair?
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. There was the Independence Road needs to be repaid for a project that's happening. There was an issue of whether this could be a mill and fill for a specific area of roadway, or if it needed to have the full year of design treatment and then the sub base and all. Requested that it be the mill and fill, which would be, you know, kind of a $300,000 job that could be done relatively quickly. Chief Brown last informed me that that because of the traffic, that the project was going to bring, that he was concerned that he said his people, I assume that's everyone on this call, that the truck traffic would make it more than a mill and fill, and that he would talk to Director Ebersol and make sure whichever direction they go, it won't slow the project down. But I don't have like the final.
So Director Sprons or Director Cox, do you have this on your agenda?
Yeah, I can. So I think just to supplement what Council President Kelly said, yeah, we did look at a mill and fill for that, and Chief Brown has informed that solution probably wouldn't be the best use of our capital dollars for that road, given what the condition of it is and what the use is going to be. I believe that Director Ebersol is working to find some financing for the project. So he's working on that part of it. I don't have really a timeline from him yet as to when those funds would be available. And then engineering is working on a design for the road right now. So they're looking at the design and repairs for Independence Road right now. So we're currently looking at design, and we're trying to get a funding strategy in place for the project.
So the funding was placed at the beginning of the year. This project hasn't changed. This has always been an industrial road. This has always had the job ready site there. There's nothing new information here. So I'm not sure what occurred between the beginning of the year when this project was funded to where we're at today, and what has changed other than delaying and kicking the can down the road and just not dealing with it.
Matthew, we have funds for the construction?
Yeah, the funds were put in place at the beginning of the year during the budget hearing.
Okay. All right. We'll check with Chief Brown because I'm not aware. Matthew, you aware of the fund?
No, all I'm aware of is that Director Ebersol was working with our partners at the state to get funds appropriated for the road improvements.
Council President?
Sorry about that. Jump to another screen. Yeah, there's a sufficient track of emails, etc. Bottom line is the project's got to get done. So we'll figure out what the path to getting it done is.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Madam Clerk, if you can please excuse the absence of Councilman Slife. No further questions. We will adjourn DPS committee until next Tuesday. Thank you very much.